April 16, 1945. A bright spring morning in central Germany. On the road leading out of Weimar, something strange was happening. It looked like a parade. Hundreds of people walked in neat columns, men in tailored suits and fedora hats, women in fur coats, lipstick, high heels. They were talking, some were smiling, a few even laughed. They looked like they were on their way to a garden party or the opera. They were the elite of Weimar: doctors, lawyers, professors, business owners, the cultural aristocracy of Germany. But they were not going to a celebration. They were marching at gunpoint. American soldiers flanked them on both sides. Dirty uniforms, hollow eyes, fingers resting on the triggers of their rifles. The soldiers were escorting them up a wooded hill called the Ettersberg, 5 miles away, toward a place the citizens insisted they knew nothing about, a place called Buchenwald. As they walked, the complaints began. "This is an outrage. My shoes are getting dusty. Why are we being treated like criminals?" They believed it was a propaganda stunt, an American exaggeration. They believed they were innocent. But George S. Patton had a very different opinion. 2 days earlier, Patton had walked through Buchenwald himself. He had seen the ovens. He had seen the zoo the SS built for their amusement. He had seen prisoners starved to skeletons while guards lived comfortably nearby. And he decided that the innocence of Weimar was a lie. If they claimed they did not know, then they would be shown. This is the story of the parade of shame. The moment Germany's cultural capital was forced to confront the neighbor it had ignored, and the day polite denial collapsed. To understand why Patton chose Weimar, you have to understand what Weimar represented. Weimar was not an ordinary German city. It was the soul of German culture, the city of Goethe, the city of Schiller, the birthplace of the Bauhaus movement, a place of libraries, theaters, and manicured parks. Its citizens prided themselves on being civilized. They listened to Beethoven, they read philosophy, they believed they stood at the pinnacle of European refinement, and yet just 5 miles away, up a scenic, tree-lined road, stood a factory of death. Buchenwald was established in 1937. For 8 years, it operated in plain sight. SS officers lived in comfortable homes nearby. Their wives shopped in Weimar's boutiques. They attended the same concerts, the same cafes. Smoke from the crematorium drifted over the city. Ash settled on windowsills. And when asked, the citizens said the same 4 words: "We didn't know." They claimed the smoke came from a factory, that the thin men on the rail lines were laborers, that nothing unusual was happening. It was denial, perfected. On April 11, 1945, the bubble burst. American forces reached the area. The SS fled. Prisoners who were still alive took control of the camp. When Patton arrived days later, he believed he was prepared. He had already seen Ohrdruf. He was wrong. Buchenwald was enormous. More than 20,000 prisoners remained. Walking skeletons, men weighing barely 60 pounds, children who had forgotten how to smile. Patton passed through the gates. In the courtyard, he saw piles of bodies, hundreds of them, naked, yellow-skinned, eyes open, stacked like firewood. The stench was overwhelming. American soldiers vomited as they walked. Patton, hardened by years of war, broke. In his diary he wrote, "I have never felt so sick in my life. This is not war, this is madness." Beyond the fence he could see German civilians, ploughing fields, hanging laundry, living normal lives. Patton turned to an officer. "Do the people in that town know about this?" "They say they don't, General." Patton's face flushed red. "They are lying," he said, "and I am going to prove it." He summoned the provost marshal and gave an order unlike any other. He did not want just officials. He did not want just the mayor. He wanted the elite. "Find the richest people," Patton ordered. "The professors, the lawyers, the businessmen, the wives of politicians. Round up 1,000 of them. Military police went door to door. Grand villas, shops, cafes. You were going for a walk. they said. Put on your coats. General Patton invites you to visit your neighbors. The reactions varied. Confusion, anger, disbelief. I am a doctor, one man protested. You cannot order me around. The MP raised his rifle. Start walking. And so the parade began. 1,000 well-dressed civilians marched uphill. American jeeps rolled alongside to prevent escape. At first, the mood was light. People chatted. Women adjusted their hair. Men joked. They treated it as an inconvenience. Then, about an hour into the march, the wind shifted. The smell reached them. Not the smell of rot, the smell of old death. Heavy, greasy, unavoidable. Conversation stopped. Handkerchiefs came out. Perfumed scarves pressed to faces. The MPS pushed them forward. No stopping. They reached the iron gate. The inscription read, "Jedem da Seine." To each his own, a cruel joke. They stepped inside. The first thing they saw was the prisoners, thousands of them, standing behind barbed wire, silent. They stared at the fur coats, the polished shoes. They did not scream. They did not rush forward. They simply stared. And that stare was worse than any accusation. The Americans guided the civilians to the crematorium. In the courtyard stood a trailer piled with bodies, emaciated, twisted, mouths frozen open. A woman screamed and fainted into the mud. An MP nudged her with his boot. "Get up," he said. "You haven't seen anything yet." This was the moment the lie collapsed. Inside, the civilians were forced to look. If someone turned away, a soldier grabbed their chin. "Look," they shouted. "Look at what you did." They were led into the pathology room. On a table lay SS artifacts, shrunken human heads, pieces of tattooed skin, evidence of a system that had turned murder into craft. An American officer spoke in perfect German. "You say you didn't know. These were made while you went to concerts, while you drank coffee." Men in suits wept openly. Others vomited. Their denial was gone. The tour continued through quarantine blocks, through rooms of disease and neglect. Masks were given to soldiers, not to civilians. They had to breathe it in. A former prisoner approached a banker, pointed a shaking finger. "I remember you," he said. "I worked at the station. You saw me. You looked away." The banker collapsed. "I didn't know," he sobbed. No one believed him, not even himself. When the march ended, the civilians walked back down the hill. No one spoke. Makeup streaked with tears, shoes ruined with mud. Weimar would never look the same again. When Dwight D. Eisenhower learned what Patton had done, he did not reprimand him. He expanded the order. He demanded witnesses, press, politicians. He understood what was coming. Denial. Years later, Eisenhower would say he wanted evidence so strong that no one could ever dismiss the crimes as propaganda. The impact was immediate. In the days that followed, several prominent Weimar citizens committed suicide. The shame was too much. Patton was informed. He did not celebrate. He did not mourn. "Good," he said. "Maybe the rest will learn." The forced march of Weimar raises a question that still matters. How much does a society know about crimes committed in its name? The citizens of Weimar were not executioners. They were not guards, but they were neighbors. And on that April day in 1945, Patton forced them, and the world, to open their eyes. They walked up the hill as cultural aristocrats. They walked down as accomplices, and the shadow of Buchenwald followed them home.